We'll start with Liane. Sorry, Liane. Liane, are you out there?
It's Liana.
Oh, I'm sorry. I butchered that. I apologize. I'm from East Texas, so you have to excuse me from that.
Actually,
We,
it's
we,
been
we kill a
butchered
lot of
a
words.
lot on radio.
We kill a lot of words. But what's interesting about what you do, and I'll kind of set this up for a second because you can correct me, but I've actually been in aquaculture myself. I actually created a tilapia farm myself in Palm Springs about, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, maybe. See what happens with that. But that said, tell us a little bit about Aquaai, how you got started, and tell us a little bit about what the company's doing right now.
Okay. Well, first off, thanks for having Aquaai on the show today. It's a big honor for us, and we're thrilled to be able to share our story with everybody who's listening. So Aquaai actually came to be thanks to Simeon Pietrkowski, my partner. His daughter grew up with him in the lab as a roboticist, animatronic, special effects guy. She spent many a moon with her dad as he would build 2-meter-tall humanoid robots to test human and robot interaction. This was some 20 years ago. So one day she came home from school and she said, "Hey, Dad, you got to save the seas." She had learned that the oceans were in a crisis and in dire straits. So he pivoted and started looking about what type of technology is needed in the waterways to be able to essentially, help repair the oceans, or at least in our attempt of saving the seas. And he came up with biomimicry. He thought that, we had to have systems that would be able to maneuver rougher seas with climate change, as well as, with the superstorms, to be able to maneuver around debris and just be able to withstand the rough waters. I actually met him when I was a journalist doing a story on the Q, as in, from James Bond, Q, innovators in Tel Aviv in Israel at the time. Simeon is a South African from Cape Town, was living in Israel, and I was doing the story, and I said, okay, I got to hear about this guy who just seems to be always inventing amazing technologies. So that's how, when we came to the U.S., I imported him to make America great again. We decided to take one of his inventions, which was the robotic fish, and make a company out of it, and that's how Aquaai came to be.
Well, I know back when we were doing our fish farming, the aquatic fish would have probably been pretty helpful. We had a pretty good yield, but it's always good to have more data with regard to how you're actually doing the job itself. But how does a reporter and a media executive make the transition to being a robotics company CEO? I mean, how does that work?
Oh, well, when you're a reporter, especially when you're covering conflict and international current world events, current affairs, it takes a lot of chutzpah and fearlessness, and that translates very well to becoming a CEO of a company, of any company, robotics or other. You really have to be fearless. You really have to never quit. You really have to just not be afraid to send out those cold emails, to track down the people you need to help you in the fruition of your dream. So I think, I've learned a lot, trust me, a lot, especially when it comes to, some aspects of not necessarily managing, but numbers. I've managed large teams before when I was with the New York Times television, and that translates really well in terms of managing and hiring the right team. We put together an amazing team, I think, to make this project fly, or swim, I should say. And so a lot of it is translatable. But again, I'm learning every day, and I'm it's a challenge for me, and I'm up to fulfilling, that dream and tackling those challenges and obstacles that have come my way. And, I kind of take the Richard Branson approach and try to surround myself with people who know a lot more about certain aspects that I don't know, and really, really enjoy working with real professionals. And when you work with, top of the line people, true professionals, it helps me make my job that much easier. And I think that we see that in what Aquaai has created with which is now called NAMU, our bio-inspired vehicles. The latest one we named NAMU for Goddess of the Sea.
Wow. One thing that's interesting about what you just said was you mentioned
CEOs and women,
really?
Doing changes in the sea.
You mentioned biomimicry. When we think about biomimicry, a lot of people may not necessarily be familiar with that word. So I guess the question would be, when you think about the biomimicry you have in the robotics that you guys have created, what is the biggest advantage of using something like that as you survey the areas where you're actually looking at either, let's say, salmon or some other fish that you're actually studying at that particular point?
I think it's the ability to immerse ourselves in the natural habitat in a manner that the natural habitat accepts us and adopts us. So, we're also using AI and, we have VR capabilities and computer vision, but the biomimicry allows us to get really up close, whether it's to the salmon in aquaculture, which is a, $180 billion market and just booming because so many people want to have seafood. There are fewer fish in the sea. So for when we're swimming in marine aquaculture pens, the fish adopt us. We can get closer, so therefore we can acquire more precision data, if you will. Same in corals, we're able to really immerse with the environment, and I think that the future of robotics, as you can see, is going towards biomimicry, and I'm just really happy that Simeon was ahead of that curve, and we've had a few versions of our fish, which has each time progressed and swims more beautifully each robot. So I'm happy about that we're able to also be inside the waterways in an eco-friendly way as well, in terms of power consumption, in terms of ability to swim long distances and on very little power. So, and also the cost. I mean, it's very cost effective. Our system, our solution is an all-in-one system because we are, plug and play. We're not inventing sensors. We are taking sensors off the shelf and packing it in as per customer need, and then we're onto our platform and we're able to gather what I would say, superior data.
When you mentioned the product a second ago, one of the things that came out was I think that you mentioned, or we in some of our notes, that the insurance industry was interested in the technology. What would be the reason that insurance companies would have an interest in technology like this?
Well, the technology, as it is basically it's an underwater drone. So the use cases are vast. It can be anything from, swimming up and down a coast, let's say in Australia, sending alerts that there's a shark in the area, to post-disaster. Take what went on in Florida or in Houston, and you can send a robot rather than a human in to maneuver through the debris and gather the data of what's in the waterways, the bacteria levels. Usually what happens after a superstorm is that the bacteria levels in the water are incredibly high. So it's better perhaps to send in a robot than a human and put a human at risk and to gather that data, which is what insurance agencies would need, as well as, even reaching far out there to let's say cruise ships, having a robot like this that you can throw overboard easily in the event, God forbid, that somebody falls over, and you can just deploy these robots and to swim around the area quickly. So there are many use cases. We're entering into the aquaculture market first and foremost because we've had wonderful success there and have built some amazing relationships in aquaculture. Ports have also reached out to us recently as a use case. Also, insurance agencies, reinsurers primarily, are the ones who are insuring these locales that need with more busier ports out there, more traffic, heavier ships, no less. So our device, our platform is also capable of monitoring and detecting traffic and, let's say, sand movements in ports to prevent any type of a disaster. So we're both the risk mitigating as well as a post-disaster technology. And
Perfect.
In fact, we were just named, I think, a couple of days ago from as exponential innovator from insurance thought leadership.
Well, obviously, this is the understatement of the day when you think about thought leadership there. We're about out of time here. Give us an idea of how people can contact the company if they're interested in either looking at the technology or just talking to you guys or communicating with you.
Yes, so we are at Aquaai.com. That's AQUAAI. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We are ready to, share our technology and have everyone join us in our mission of saving the seas. This is a community effort, so we really love having the community. We were just last week at the American Museum of Natural History.
Perfect. Liane, got to cut you off there. We got a hard break here. I apologize for that, but I thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back. We're going to have a chance to talk a little bit longer about Aquaai.
Great.
Thank you. That was
for having us.
Thank you. Ed Baxter here for Michael Yorber. We'll be right back with the Private Equity Moment. This portion brought to you by Vitamin Patch.